Hey there, my friend. Welcome to the Leadership Table with Chad Reyes. And I'm just so excited as we come in to this new year. I'm so excited to talk about this topic of leading and loving well. You know, I got to tell you, it's something that I've been talking about with leaders, and I want to just unpack it with you today. I want to talk through it, and just share with you from my heart. You know, I love the quote that when John Maxwell says, he says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And a lot of this is based off of that. But I do want to share with you the impact of leading and loving well. And I want to share with you the downside to just loving well and the downside to just leading well. You know, let's talk about this in businesses and organizations and churches. I'll often see a leader who leads well. They understand the techniques, they understand the strategies, they understand all of that. But they just don't care for their people. And if they do care, they haven't shown it. The people don't feel it. The people don't understand it. But then on the flip side of that, you'll see the leaders that love their people phenomenally well. They love them at a level that's unprecedented, but they love them into the grave. And I'm going to share with you today some stuff that I think I hope it challenges you. I hope it inspires you. But I was talking with my brother, and we were talking about this whole leading and loving. And one of the things that he shared with me is he had someone that he knew that the family loved the child so well, but they didn't lead the child well. And what happened was, unfortunately, the child took their life. Now, that's an extreme part. It's an extreme part. But it's so important for us to have to lead and love. And I'll give you an example. A lot of the times when we love people, we love them because of where they're, we're empathizing with them, of where they're at in their life. And in some instances, sometimes we even sympathize with them. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy. But I think it's so important to understand that when we're loving people, they have to know that they matter to us. They have to know that we care for them. But we can't love them so much to allow them to stay where they're at. And I see it over 20 years of working with leaders. I see it often where you'll have someone that will love people, but they won't guide them and direct them to truth. They won't address the things that are really showing up in that person's life. And because they don't address it, it just gets worse. I'll tell you what, if I had to choose, now this is me, if I had to choose, I'd rather be led well than loved well. Now, the good thing is, you don't need an or, you could have and. But I would want someone to love me, but then to say, Chad, and I'll share a real life example with you. We had a coach in one of the darkest seasons of my wife and my life. And he said to me, he said, Chad, I love you too much to allow you to continue doing this to yourself. He said, you're lying to yourself, you're believing the lie, and you're expecting things to get better and change, and they're not going to if you don't address some of the things that are happening in your life. I got to tell you, it was one of those moments when you know someone cares about you, and all of a sudden they're sharing truth, but truth with love. It changed things in me because it got me to realize that this guy is not saying this because he doesn't care for me. This coach is saying this because he cares about Danielle and I. He wants to see us grow. He wants to see us develop. And he doesn't want to see us continuing to show up and do the same thing day in, day out and expect a different outcome. And as you're going into this year, are you loving, and leading well? Who are the people in your life that you need to have difficult conversations with? With love. You see, when now just hear me out for a moment. When you love someone, but you don't lead them, they become they don't grow and they just stay stagnant. But when you love them and you lead them, this is what happens. They start growing and developing and thriving. I'll tell you this, that I think a lot of people that love but don't lead, it happens out of insecurity. And I think a lot of people who lead but don't love, it happens out of insecurity. You know, when you connect the leading and the loving, that's out of humility, that's out of deep love and care for the person. In 25, how are you going to lead the people that matter to you and love them well? Because I see this in churches, I see this in businesses, I see this in just organizations all over, where you see you have a pastor or you have a leader of a company, and they want their people to like them. So what do? They love them well. But then they don't actually lead their people. And I'm going to give you some real practical things of leading. The first is this, is that when we're helping our people lead themselves well, the first step of our 4 phases of leadership is you got to get them to lead themselves well. You see, phase 1 of the 4 phases of leadership is this, is that people have to lead themselves well before we put them in a role to lead others. If we're not leading ourselves well, why would we want to put them in a position to lead other people? And what does leading ourselves well look like? Leading ourselves well is, do we show up every day and give it our best? That's the first. 2, do we value people? 3, are we building good relationships? 4, are we caring and developing people? You see, too often in organizations, we'll put people that don't lead themselves well, and we put them in charge of leading others, and then all of a sudden we have a slew of people that are just not leading themselves well, because we teach what we know, but we reproduce who we are. And that same thing could be the case with loving, right? If we put someone in that doesn't love people well, they'll reproduce not loving people. So when we're looking at, in this new year, when we're looking at how do we develop our people, how do we lead and love them well, we first got to be able to recognize, are we doing that to ourselves? Do we lead and love ourselves well? I got to tell you, I've been sharing lately on different interviews that I've been doing and different podcasts that I've been involved with, and different leadership videos. I've been sharing that I've been recognizing how I look at myself. And as a person of faith, I realized that years ago, I used to look at myself with so much doubt and so much fear and worry. But I've been looking at how I look at myself lately. Like, Chad, how do you really who are you, Chad? Like, how do you look at who you really are? And it's been encouraging to me, because the things that we're doing in my life right now, in our businesses and our organizations, I think it really is an overflow of what I hear my Father in heaven say about me. I think it's an overflow that when I do have some doubt and worry, which I'm normal, we all do, I don't believe the doubt and worry. I say, no, Lord, I know that you have a plan. Your word is very simple, that I'm built in your image and likeness. And I want to encourage you that how you look at yourself, how you lead yourself, and how you love yourself is going to play a lot into how you lead others. I'll tell you the reason why. Because I look at myself, and if I can be honest with you, I have a high regard for myself. I do. And I'm not saying that out of arrogance. I'm not saying that out of a self deprecate a self humility. I believe myself. I believe that God has designed and destined me to do some amazing things, to make a major difference in people's lives. Now, I also believe that people matter. So when I lead with leading and loving, but I also lead with I want people to reach their potential. I'm never going to be that leader that'll just sit in the room and just be comfortable with you just showing up every day. That's never going to be me. It's not me today. It won't be me next year, and it certainly will not be me in 10, 15, 30, 50 years from now. I I want people to reach potential. And what leading and loving well is that when you see someone has potential, you pull it out of them. How do you do that? You challenge them, lovingly challenge them. You let them know they matter, but you also say you can't stay where you're at. We got to keep growing. And my friend, in 25, we got to look at ourselves and we got to do we lead ourselves well? That's my question for you. Do you lead yourself well? Or do you find yourself getting in funks where you start drinking, where you start doing drugs? Do you find yourself where you go into a pity party and it's consistent? It's normal for us at times to get down. It's not normal for us to live down. Very different. So how do you lead yourself? But then this is the next question. How do you love yourself? Because how you love yourself will show up in your leadership. You see, if you don't love yourself, and I don't mean love in the way the world does, where it's a facade and it's not, it's a cover up to cover insecurities. I mean, do you truly love yourself? Do you truly care for yourself? Because if you don't truly care for yourself, my friend, don't go to the next step of leading people. Because you got to love yourself to love others. You have to be comfortable with the person, the man or woman in that mirror, to lead another person really well. And one of the things I've recognized is in my leadership style, I'm very comfortable with someone not liking me, as long as they're going to a new level of growth in their life. I think leaders, when they think about loving their people, they also want their people to like them all the time. It's a very slippery slope when your people always have to like you when you're leading. And the reason is this. A lot of the times when you're making decisions as a leader, you're going to have a percentage of the people who like the decision, and you're going to have a percentage of the people that don't like the decision you made. And think about if you needed every person in that room, every person on that team, every person in the organization to like the decisions you make. You're never going to make decisions, or you're going to be really hesitant to make it. When we're leading well and we're loving well, it's okay for us to make decisions that not everyone fully agrees on. That's why leaders get paid, higher level leaders get paid to make tough decisions. It's the reason is that those tough decisions, they have to make them because no one else is going to make them. And as you're going into 2025, I want to challenge you to lead well, love well, and not be attached to the like. Hey, you're listening to the Leadership Table with Chad Reyes. I want you to drop a comment of the impact that the conversation today is having in your life. Drop a comment, like it, share it with your friends. This is a table where we want our people to grow. We want the people around us to grow. And these are mature conversations. So drop a comment, like it. I'm super excited for you to be on the table with us. So let's continue. Let's jump on in to continue the conversation. So when you think about this now, If we need our people to truly like us, then how can we lead them? How can we lead them if we need them to always like us? What I want to do today is I want to challenge you. I want to give you a visual. I want to challenge you that this is where our people are. This is where our people could be. And your job is to move people up. Now, in some of those things, you can inspire them up. You can encourage them. You can speak words to raise their belief and their actions. In other instances, you as the leader need to come down and pull them up like that. And in other instances, we need to say some people don't want either. They don't want to be inspired and they don't want to be pulled up. And as a leader, if you have people on your team and you have people in your organization that don't want to grow, you need to have real tough conversations. So I'm going to share with you right now. This is a tough conversation, but it's a loving, well conversation. It goes something like this. John Smith, I love you. I care for you. You matter to me. You have so much inside of you. I've observed you have so much potential. But I need your effort. I need you to put the time and the energy in to develop yourself, because you're not naturally just going to drift into being better. It's going to require your time and energy in growing to be the leader you could be. Now this is a key part. Now, I am willing to put the time in, but that's not going to happen unless you put the time in. If you put the time in, you'll get my time. If you don't put the time in, I can't give you something that you're not willing to give yourself. So I want to be here for you. I want to help you grow. I want to develop you. I want to encourage you. I can't do any of that without your participation. That is a loving, well conversation. The person knows that you care, but you're letting them know that this is a two-way street. This is a partnership here. And as you go into 2025, I want you to love well, but understand that difficult conversations is leading. A lot of times people think that leadership is just getting people excited about where they're going. That's not just leading. That's casting vision. It's very easy to cast vision. Leading is having difficult conversations with people. Leading is loving them, but not allowing them to stay in the situation that they're in. And then sometimes leading them is leading them out. I remember John Maxwell saying this. He said, there's only two ways to stay in my organization. We either lead you up or we lovingly lead you out. But not growing, not developing, not doing the things that can make you a more efficient leader, a more effective leader to reach your potential is not an option. And at least not in this environment. So as you go into 2025, I want to encourage you, help your people lead up. Help your people lovingly lead out. Because you want to know what happens when you don't lead and you don't love, and you don't do both of them? The people that are actually good performers, the people that are actually good leaders on your team, they start losing respect for you because you're not leading and loving. They look and they say, well, they're a nice person, but they're not actually leading people. What they're doing is they're creating an environment where people are very comfortable, but we're not seeing growth. We're not seeing fruit. And I just want to challenge you that this year, as you go into this year, have the difficult conversations. But before you choose to have difficult conversations with people, have that difficult conversation with yourself. Have that conversation. Am I leading myself well? That's a question that I want you to ask yourself. Am I leading myself well? And then after you answer that question, am I loving myself well? Because I know this in leadership, and I know this by on the shadow of a doubt, that how you look at yourself is predicated on how you lead others. And if you're not leading yourself well and loving yourself well, then it's going to be hard for you to lead others and love others. So my friend, start with the first phase 1, self-leadership. Then go to the second stage, which is one-on-one leadership, where you can then love and lead another person well. Then you go to the third, which is team leadership, where you can lead a team and love the team well. And then you go to the fourth, which is you lead and love an entire organization. You see, we teach what we know and we reproduce who we are. And as we're going into 2025 and as we're working with our teams and we're accomplishing vision, there's going to be times this year, I can promise you, if you're in a growing organization, I can promise you beyond a shadow of a doubt that there are going to be times where you need to have real conversations with people. And sometimes the people on the other side, they're going to misconstrue what you say. And other times, like our coach in 2009 said, Chad, I love you and Danielle too much to allow you to continue to do this to yourself. You'll respond. The people on the other side are going to respond and say, he didn't need to say that. He didn't need to get uncomfortable. He got uncomfortable because he sees more inside of us. So as you go into this new year, I want you to say, how am I doing it with myself? And who are the people on my team that I need to lead and love well? And where are the people that I need to have difficult conversations with and do it with truth in love? Because what I can tell you is this, beyond a shadow of a doubt, in this modern world that we're living in 2025, people want authentic leaders. Authentic leaders love well and lead well. They don't just love well because that's not authenticity. And they don't just lead well because that's not authenticity. They lead and love well. They have difficult conversations. They celebrate the victories together. They enjoy each other's company. They make a difference together, but they face the reality of where they're at. My friend, I want to thank you for spending time on the leadership table. I want you to challenge yourself. Share this message with others. Get this message out to other people that need to hear this. You know, drop a comment in the comment box. But I can tell you this. This is true leadership. This is real when we lead people and we love people. I am believing that you have so much potential inside. I'm believing that God is going to do an amazing thing this year in your life. Hey, keep leading well. Drop a comment in. Tell me your biggest takeaway from today. Until next time, be well. May God bless you. Bye. You're listening to The Leadership Table. I am so excited that you've joined us. Hey, listen, you want to join us in future episodes where we're going to invite some of our greatest friends, some of the greatest leaders we know to share all about their leadership journeys and just add tremendous value to you and your teams. Hey, listen, drop a comment below on your biggest takeaway, that what is impacting you the most. Like it, share it with those people that you know need to hear this message, and subscribe. And hey, listen, turn on the notifications. I just want to thank you because you are making a difference. As you help us, we help you, and we just divide the work and multiply the impact. My friend, thank you for joining us on The Leadership Table.